This is the Military Bottom Line Podcast, episode 86.
You want to be successful in the military, here's a couple bits of advice. Number one, volunteer for everything that no one else wants to do.
Yeah.
Number two, just consistently work hard without expectation of a return for a long time and tune out all the noise from around you. Don't worry about other people getting promoted. Don't worry about other people getting awards. Just do your thing and eventually it'll pay off, I promise.
Welcome to the Military Bottom Line Podcast, where we learn from veterans and those currently serving how to make the most out of a military contract. We're here to motivate, inspire, and help you leverage your service to positively impact you professionally, personally, and financially during your military career and beyond. What is going on, everybody? This is Jason Birds, your host of the Military Bottom Line Podcast. I know it's been months since I've regularly uploaded podcasts. Just had my second kid 6 months ago, and finishing up my license for commercial appraising. It's been hectic. And so I apologize that I've been absent for so long. It's not really what I want to do. I want to continue making content. I want to continue interacting with you guys, networking with guests, and being in this arena because I have a lot of fun doing it. But it is a massive time commitment. And so that's something I'm working on this quarter. By the end of the year, I want to set up kind of some systems, set up some visions and some goals, and really figure out where I want to take this. Because despite me being out of the military now and maybe not wanting it to be quite as military focused, you all are people that I relate to, that we're all, brothers and sisters via the military. And so I want to continue helping you where I can, learning from you guys where I can, and keep this thing going. So I appreciate those that have stuck around, those that still watch the YouTube videos that I upload, still listen to the podcasts that I upload, and I appreciate that. And hopefully you'll stick with me as I create a new vision for this and a plan and a system to actually make it sustainable, because 2 kids ain't no joke. So I appreciate you guys being patient with me. But for today, I want to introduce you guys to Adit Shah. Adit is a real estate developer and a private equity syndicator. After separating honorably from the U.S. Navy, he worked for a developer for free for an entire year, which led him to founding Housebender Inc., his own development company. Adit also co-founded Tempest 22, a private equity company, which raised $3.2 million and acquired $18 million in assets in under 1 year. Man, he is killing it. And, I know life is not about comparing, yourself to other people, but when I've been out of the military, active duty since 2015, knowing that he's been out for only 4 years and he's done some tremendous things, it makes me like, dang it, I screwed the pooch. I did not know exactly where I wanted to go. And so I floundered for too long. But Adit had a vision from the beginning. He knew where he wanted to go. He stayed focused, he committed, and he worked for free, which most people are not willing to do. And so I think he's got a really impressive story, and I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from Adit. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And if you guys think that, you want to hear more of his story, going deeper, because we had a hard cutoff time, there was far more that I would have liked to get into. But, if you guys felt the same way, if you guys want to hear more, send me a message, let me know, and we'll get back on the show and get a little bit more specifics. So for now, enjoy the show. Adit Shah, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How's it going?
Good. Thanks so much for joining me today. It's been a hot minute since I've had a podcast interview, so I'm really looking forward to this. We've got a little bit of your story underway, and I'm excited to hear it. So just would love to kind of start with a little bit of introduction, hear who you are and why you joined the military in the first place.
Sure thing. Thank you so much, Jason. Yeah, like you said, my name's Adit Shah, originally from New Jersey. Ended up joining the Navy when I was 18 years old. They took me out to San Diego, deployed 3 times out of there. The reason I joined the military really was because I knew from being a kid that I always wanted something different. Like growing up in an immigrant household, the solution and the story was always hey, you gotta go to college and you gotta become a doctor or an
Mm,
engineer, the typical Indian story. But
yeah.
I knew I wanted an adventure. I knew I wanted something different. The recruiter was at school. He said, hey man, you could join the Navy, you could travel the world, you're gonna make a bunch of money, you're gonna meet a bunch of girls. And I was like, sign me up, man. So yeah, that's kind of why I joined the military, Jason.
How'd your family feel about it? If they had these expectations of becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or something, what'd they think?
So this is so funny. So initially they were like, "What are you doing? No, you got to go to college. Indian people don't join the military." Da
Mm,
da da. But I remember I was sitting there in the recruiting office telling the recruiter because I was 17. My dad had to
yeah,
sign,
yeah,
and I was telling him, I was like, "I don't think he's going to sign, man. I think I'm just going to have to wait till I'm 18, or probably go to college or something." And he goes, don't worry, man. This is New Jersey, right? So there's a lot of Indian people." He's like, "I know exactly what to do." He's like, "Give me your dad's number." He calls my dad. He said, "Hey, Mr. Shaw, this is Petty Officer Lombano from the East Brunswick Recruiting Center, whatever. I just want to let you know that your son has been approved by the United States Navy for a full ride scholarship to any university that he chooses. And while he's in school, we're going to go ahead and pay him a housing allowance, and we're going to take care of him for the next 5 years. We're going to give him 3 meals and a place to stay." And my dad was like, "Wait a second, hold on." He's like, "Hey, say it again." He puts it on speaker. My
yeah.
mom's there. So
Too
yeah,
funny.
he's like, "Oh, well, my typical Indian dad." He's like, "Oh, I can get out of paid for this kid's college,
Yeah,
sign him up." So
too
yeah,
funny.
that's how that
So
went.
he knew what he was doing at that point.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Right on. So it was always Navy for you. I mean, that recruiter got you first, and it was just kind of like, let's do it.
Yeah, so I actually was trying to join the Marine Corps, but
Okay.
unfortunately, I was a troublemaker as a kid, so I'd gotten
Mm,
into some trouble. The Marines were like, "Yeah, you need to wait at least a year," and I was like, "No, man, I'm trying to leave today.
yeah.
I'm trying to get out of New Jersey." So the Navy was like, sure enough,
Yeah.
they'll take it, just about anybody. So
Right on. Right on. All right. Yeah. So super cool. I mean, I'd never did any boat time. But Navy life never seemed bad, especially if you're in San Diego, and it's a good deal.
yeah.
So give us kind of like I know we want to focus a lot on your transition and what you're doing now that you're out, but give us for context kind of high elevation view of your time in the Navy and what you thought of it, what you did, and where you went.
Yeah, totally, man. So, like, I joined in 2014 from boot camp in Great Lakes. So they sent me straight to San Diego. I was actually on a frigate first, the USS McCluskey. They're not around anymore, so I was part of the
Mm,
decommissioning crew for that ship. And then I decommed the McCluskey like early January. It was a Wednesday, and they sent me to TPU, which is like hey, if you're in limbo, this is where you get sent while you wait to go to your next command. And I was in TPU for one night, and then the second night, I was out in downtown San Diego, and the chief at TPU calls me. He says, "Hey, boats, you're leaving in the morning. You're
shoot.
going to the U.S." I had orders already, the USS Carl Vinson, but they were deployed in Fifth Fleet in the Persian Gulf. So literally had to leave my car with a friend so they could put it in storage. All my stuff. I didn't have much. I was 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
E3. Got sent to the Carl Vinson. Did that deployment. Fifth Fleet, came back to San Diego. I was on the Carl Vinson until 2018, ended up deploying two more times on the Carl Vinson. And then I ended my time at SARP Point Loma, which is like the drug rehabilitation
Okay.
facility. I was one of the facility managers there for about a year and then got out.
Got it. Drug rehabilitation. So like people that popped kind of thing on their way out, they get sent here, or like what does that look like?
So it's drug and alcohol. So like if you say,
Okay.
"Hey, I have a problem drinking," you get sent there, and or if they also provide drug rehab.
No kidding.
But yeah, I was there for a year as the facilities manager. Does kind of like a chill on the way out duty. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I always kind of assumed if somebody said that they had a drug problem, they just like burned you and sent you on your way. But at
yeah,
least go ahead.
so like if you ask for help, I think back in those days, if you ask for help, you're still getting kicked out because you're using drugs, but they
Hmm.
will give you some rehabilitation before you get out.
Got it. Got it. Was there anything, I try to focus on programs and opportunities within the military that people while on active can take advantage of to kind of set themselves up for the transition, the career afterwards. It sounds like you were pretty busy, going on floats and things like that. Were there any programs that you found along the way or pursued or anything that you were able to take advantage of that set you up?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I was considering Seaman to Admiral, which is a commissioning program, because my
Yeah.
division officer at the time was really pushing me because he saw my ASVAB score. I scored pretty well in the ASVAB. He's like, "Hey, you're academically inclined, man. You should be an officer. You should try." And I was like, I don't know. A bosun mate. We're kind of like down in the trenches. I'm like, I don't want to be an officer. My hands ain't soft or whatever. But he's like, just do it. Take the ACT. The college entrance exam. ACT. We were deployed. He
Yeah.
set it up for me to take it in Guam, and I ended up
Mm,
scoring really high on the ACT. I got 32, I think. It was a good score. I don't remember exactly what the score is,
yeah.
but that score, taking that test and having that division officer push me to take that test, all paid for by the military. I was able to end up getting it when I got out. I got into San Diego State, and then I got into UCSD as well,
Cool.
from San Diego. So because of that test score that I took randomly while I was on deployment, he said, "Here, take this book. It's like this thick ass book he gave me.
Yeah.
Hey, study this." And then I just did it, and I didn't think anything of it, but it ended up setting me up a lot.
No kidding. No kidding. All right. So like you had considered, a full-time long-term military career at one point?
Absolutely, man. I was great. I was blessed enough and had the right mentors and followed the right advice to where I made E5 in under 3 years. And when you
Nice.
make E5 in the Navy, I think it's not like this in the Marine Corps, but in the Navy, they give you single E5 BH. So you get to move
Mm,
off base, have your own place. So
yeah.
you go from making like 30 grand to 60 grand
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
one promotion, which is like the highest pay jump, one of the highest pay jumps in the military. So
Yeah.
I got that and I was like, wow, man, I could really make a career out of this. I love my job. So yeah, absolutely. I was absolutely considering it, but at the same time, man, I'm a born bred businessman. So
Mm,
I knew that, like, as I ranked up and took the leadership positions, that I knew that the military would not be able to satiate my thirst for independence and creation and business and things like that.
interesting. Interesting. When did you, when you said you're a born bred businessman, like when did you learn that? Because not everybody knows that at 18.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, growing up, entrepreneurship was always in our blood. Like my parents are both business owners, and I always had two jobs at once. Like I would have a job and then a little side hustle, whether it was like raking leaves or when I was living in New Jersey, I was plowing snow after work or landscaping after work or
Yeah.
driving for Uber. In the military, while I was active duty, I was driving for Uber, and then I started a handyman business. So I
Handyman?
always yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
I was started a handyman business with another sailor on my ship, and we would get off work and we would go take drywall, or we would go fix random things. And there's this website called Hire Patriots in San
Yeah.
Diego County.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just for military members, like Craigslist for military. Like find someone to fix your whatever.
Yeah.
And we've really capitalized on that. Got a couple big jobs, and
Nice.
when we weren't underway, we were working on there.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's not a site that's spoken about enough in my opinion. And I said it to somebody and they're like, "Oh, that's only like, careers." I'm like, "No, there's like a in your neighborhood like odd jobs page where you can go and look at random people that need help, painting their house, like just an odd Saturday job that you can make 25 bucks an hour cash or 30, who knows how much. They vary a lot. But yeah, for some side income, hirepatriots.com is a sweet deal.
Totally, man. Yeah, it was a blessing, and it really supplementing that E3 paycheck. So
Yeah.
it kept me out of debt. Yeah.
Yeah, right on, right on. So, at what point did you decide? I mean, it sounds like you went to college after you got out. At what point did you decide? One, I'm going to get out. Two, how did you decide between going to college and going straight into business? Like, what was your mindset as you're going through this transition, and how did you know where you're going to end up, and that you were going to end up in real estate development?
Totally. Yeah, man. So um, while I was I was able to qualify for a VA loan. So
Okay.
before I got out, I ended up buying a condo, and I was renting out the other room to a roommate, a guy who was on my ship, a good friend of mine, and he was covering most of the expenses.
Mm,
So I was living here for less than what I would rent a room normally. So yeah, this real estate thing is really interesting, but I didn't really know what to do with it. It seemed like high barrier of entry. So I ended up
yeah.
getting out of the military, working for a moving company. I was making a little bit more as an E5 with single BH. You know what? I'm doing all right. And then I'm getting the GI Bill, which is an extra 3 grand. I'm raking it in, man. I'm making way more, I was
Yeah.
making probably 7, 8, 10 grand a month sometimes doing that. Right.
No
But I
kidding.
was using my body. I was
Yeah.
using my body. I was busting my ass. I was working 8 hour days and going to college,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this isn't what I'm like. This feels like the military all over again.
Uh,
And, I like, just working all day. That's not what I want to do. And I said, man, this real estate thing is really, really interesting to me. So discovered Bigger Pockets through a friend, which is like Facebook for real estate investors.
yeah.
Got on there, started listening to podcasts. And what I did was I took my cover letter and resume and sent it to every single person who looked like they were doing something in San Diego. So, hey, my name's Adit Shah. I have no skills. I have no education, but I know how to fix things, right? I can be your handyman.
Mm,
I'd love to come work for you, help you with your rental properties. I just want to learn about real estate. No one responded. Did this for like 2 months, man. Cold calling, showing up at people's offices, cold emailing, LinkedIn, all of it. Finally, someone hits me up. Like, hey, you know what? You want to? Yeah, it's like the sixth time I hit him up. You know what? Come to the job site. So I went to the job site, helped him carry around some boxes, talked about real estate. I ended up working for him for free while I was going to college. So I had the GI Bill money coming in. Worked for him for free for a year. Ended up into a paid position as a project manager and property manager, and then
mm.
I ended up doing my own deals and built my real estate business off the back of that.
No kidding. Okay. So you got your in with him and you were still doing the moving, job. Did you drop the moving job to open up time for working for him? Were you
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
were you then working for him full time for free?
Yeah, so pretty much, as much as I could.
Yeah.
Right, it ended up being sometimes it was 40 hours a week, sometimes it was 20 hours a week, sometimes it
Yeah.
was a week of nothing. It's just like whatever he needed me. But I proved myself to be useful enough to where it did turn into a pretty much a full time position.
That I mean, just like the attitude that goes along with that, like pretty much everybody is thinking about like here and now, you know, and they're probably complaining their whole way through the military, saying they're not getting paid enough and they're not even working that hard, and then you come over to get out of the military and you're willing to work for free. Like what the heck were you thinking at the time, and how what was like the length of your mindset when you're thinking like, okay, I can work for this guy for free for a year? Like what do you even envision the payback would end up being?
Yeah, so I did definitely didn't intend on it being a year. I just like, I just want to learn about real estate. Let me see someone who's doing it, see if I can help them out. Um, Figure it out, because I found like even in the military, man, like I was lucky enough to have a senior chief, that the first command I showed up, he said, "Hey, Shah, you want to be successful in the military? Here's a couple bits of advice. Number one, volunteer for everything that no one
Mhm.
else wants to do.
Yep.
Number two, just consistently work hard without expectation of a return for a long time and
Mm.
tune out all the noise from around you.
Mhm.
Don't worry about other people getting promoted. Don't worry about other people getting awards. Just do your thing and eventually it'll pay off, I promise."
Yep.
And those things I kind of took in outside of the military, which that's probably the best advice I've gotten in my life.
Mm.
Senior Chief Carter, man, I don't know if you will ever hear this, but that was really good advice. But so yeah, so I took that into that. I never thought that it would turn into a year long thing, and I never really had any agreement with him, like, hey, this is what it's going to be. But slowly and slowly, I started learning, like, hey, how's this guy buying properties? How's
Yep.
he funding them?
Yep.
What's going into the job site? What's going into the project management? How do you find tenants? How do you screen tenant? Everything, like A
Yeah.
to Z, for of real estate investing, that no course, no
Mm.
mastermind, nothing, and none of that's going to, you're not going to be taught any of those things by any education product.
Yep.
You're going to have to get down in the weeds and do it, and that's
Totally.
the best way to learn.
Totally.
So.
So that my own, I'm just trying to think, like sometimes when you've got somebody like that where they haven't really agreed to be like a mentor, like they're not intentionally sitting you down and teaching you, they're just kind of like you're working for them for free and you can soak in whatever you get to soak in. And sometimes that's it's like so much so fast. You're like, what the heck? You're just trying to keep up. Were you intentional about like writing things down and taking notes and like creating systems as you went to see like what his systems were so you could, you know, replicate it? Or like what was your process for absorbing all that and retaining it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I got to say, at the beginning, I wasn't intentional. because it just felt like Mr. Miyagi. Like I'm
Yeah.
just waxing on, waxing off. Like I'm
Yeah.
literally here on my hands and knees scrubbing toilets before tenants move in. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this? But he's like, don't worry, you know, Adit son, everything's gonna make sense. He never said that, but it did.
Yeah.
But as far as like reporting to things, like, dude, I would be in meetings with this guy and investors or with architects or with the city. And I just, you know, sometimes, you know, I don't know if I was supposed to do this, but I'd record it or I'd write things down, like how he talked, like if he was talking to an investor, explaining like, hey, this is why we're able to build 50 units here or whatever. This is why we're able to split this lot because of this legislation. And I'd write it down and then I'd go read the whole entire legislation.
Got it.
You know, or I would go like deep dive into that thing. And then I would ask him, I was like, hey man, when you're talking to so-and-so about this, I read in the legislation this, and then he would explain it to me some more, you know.
Got it.
So yeah, definitely a lot of, you know, I was intentional at the beginning. I wasn't intentional. I was just like, man, I'm probably gonna stop doing this soon because this guy's just using me or whatever,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but then I started. I was like, he opened up the doors to his business, and then I started learning a lot of that, and then I actually created some of the systems for him. So I would go learn, you know, just YouTube University, like
Yeah.
um, things about property management, things about project management. How can we implement these tools? And
Yeah.
he was a project manager, software project manager by trade. So I learned how he implemented a lot of those things in real estate, and then now I use a lot of the same systems and processes I learned from him in my business now. So
Interesting.
yeah.
That's awesome. I don't. Yeah. Before we get too far beyond it, it was said, and I just want to like draw attention to it. That two things that you did that I feel like people don't really think about is one, you were consistently sending out cold calls, cold emails to just try to find somebody's coattail to ride. And one, that's not comfortable. That's not easy. And with a bunch of no replies or denials, like you ultimately kept going until it paid off. And I think that's something that everybody really should do is like send out cold calls, send out or make cold calls and send out cold emails because you never know like what is going to come from that end conversation. And that's something I did like the other week. I was trying to connect with a local developer and had a couple exchanges of emails, and he invited me over to his office for coffee this week, and I'm like, I don't even know like what I'm gonna go ask and talk about. And but it doesn't really matter, like I'll do some homework before then and make sure I'm adequately prepared. But you don't necessarily know what the next step is going to be. You just make the first step and you figure it out along the way. um and fearing, the fear of not knowing what the next step is shouldn't keep you from making the first step. I think like we're all just making it up as we go.
Yeah, totally, man.
Yeah. And then the other one is like being willing to work for free, which nobody likes to do, so, sucking it up, especially after, 4 or 5 years in the military where you feel like you've already been sucking it up, being willing to continue to do that and not be like, oh, I just sucked it up for 4 years, 5 years, whatever. I'm no longer willing to suck it up. Like anytime you make a change like that, you're starting at the bottom. And so willingness to do that is huge. I applaud you.
Yeah, definitely. You know, thank you, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, just having the humility, dude, and then keeping your eyes on the prize. Like, sure, I'm working for this guy scrubbing toilets, doing
Yeah.
whatever handyman stuff for a real estate developer.
Yeah.
But I know that I knew in my heart then that I'm going to be a real estate developer. Like, I had just this audacious,
Yeah.
you know, explicit, just I don't know, no, like this gut feeling, like no, I'm gonna be building my own stuff someday,
Yeah.
and that's it. You know, there's no other way. And I think also having that belief will carry you through the tough times, will carry you through the moments where you need to be humble, because it's just like, dude, that right now doesn't even matter. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going through it right now. I'm doing this crap right now.
Yeah.
But I believe like 100% to the most core fibers of my bones and soul that one day I'm going to be a real estate developer. I'm going to be building my own projects. So if I'm helping this guy for free right now and people are making fun of me or whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm going to laugh at all of you in 4 years.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, that's kind of how I was looking at it, man. And looking back at it, there's no way I really knew for certain, but I just convinced myself that, hey, this is how it's going to be. So,
Yeah.
that's the narrative. That's the narrative that I created in my head. So,
yeah, I like it. Yeah. I mean, I find myself doing the same thing where it's like, doubt sneak in and you just kind of like ignore it and you just say something until it becomes true,
Yeah.
So how did that transition go from scrubbing toilets and working for this guy for free to like what was your first project, and how did you get there? Like, what was the mindset shift? What was the logistical shift and the financial shift? Like, how did that? Because San Diego ain't cheap for buying, for building, for anything. So after working for free, like, how the heck do you do that? You know?
Yeah, man. So big, good point. San Diego is not cheap. It's a very high barrier of entry, especially now with the rates going up and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the time, David Perret, shout out David. I was at one of his barbecues, and
Mm.
there's a guy named John Milan there who's also a really good friend of mine and lives here close by in Columbia. We both live here. And then there's another guy, Recon Marine, Donald Appleberry. So we're all sitting there barbecuing. And John, who was a lender, he was new to the lending game at the time. He's like, hey, man, I learned this thing that if someone has a VA loan already and they combine entitlement with another veteran who hasn't used their VA loan, they have unlimited entitlement and then they can go buy another property. And I was like, huh, I looked at Donnie. I was like, dude, have you used your VA loan? It's like, no. He was like, no. And I had some income at the time from W-2, so I could qualify for a loan. And he had the entitlement. So we combined it. We bought a 3 unit. I was working for free during this time, but I was like looking for my break into the market. And this ended up being it. We bought a 3 unit, turned it around. About a year later, we sold it for a $350,000 profit. So we split that in two. I also sold my condo like weeks before that for $105,000 profit. So I took all that money and then now I have cash, right?
Yeah.
And I have the experience of working for this developer, and I'm like, okay, so now I can do what I need to do.
So let's back up a little bit here, because you just said some stuff that I'm not privy to. I didn't know this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you already had a VA loan out on a condo,
Mm-hmm.
and this other guy, Donnie or whatever his name was, has a VA loan that's unused, and you combined your two VA loans, and so your remaining eligibility for VA loan use basically went away, and his cap went away. So you could, I mean, because you said 3 unit, you can buy a 3 unit by yourself with a VA loan as long as you financially qualify. But if you combine two VA loans, like you can buy, a 20 unit. Like how does how does this work? What are the details?
So just a disclaimer to everyone listening, I am not a VA loan expert.
Yeah,
Definitely go
fair.
to reach out to your lenders. I'm just speaking of what's worked for me and I've pulled off. So I'm assuming that it's true. So
Mhm.
the VA guideline does say that you can buy up to 6 units with two office. Or I don't know what it is. It's saying you can buy more than four. However,
Mhm.
there's no lender out there that I know of that'll do it.
Mhm.
So we bought a 3 unit, but the reason, like, here's why it works. Let's just say you, Jason, you've never used your VA loan. I have
Mhm.
a VA loan route out right now, so I
Mhm.
can't. My entitlement's capped, right? But let's say you never used it, but let's say you don't have a job, Jason. You don't have W-2 income. But
Mhm.
hey, I can qualify. Hey, I can get us the income. So that's how this partnership works. I'm going to use my income
Got
to
it.
qualify. We're going to use your entitlement. We're going to come together. We're going to buy a property together,
Got it. Got
right?
it.
So Donnie and I did that, and we bought a value add 3 unit, which in the low interest rate environment, it was sitting on the market, man. So we got it for
Mm.
we got it for cheaper than what they were asking. Walked in with equity, did a ton of improvements, not a ton actually, light improvements, and jacked up the rents and sold it. So
And you had to live in it during that time period. I mean, it's still a VA loan. You were required to live in it.
that is correct. So we were trying to move in. We ended up staying there for a little while, but at the time, the eviction laws in California were
Mm.
changed because of COVID.
Mm.
And so the eviction laws happened. We had tenants who didn't want to leave, because of COVID. It
Got it.
was impossible to find another place. And then on the back of that, we had one unit have a pipe burst and flood.
Got it.
So I ended up staying there for a little bit, but the lender and the VA were cool with it because we were able to document why. We did have every intention of living there
Yeah,
because that deal was so good, Jason, that Donnie and I could live there for free.
that's awesome.
So we were like, we want to, but
Which is hard to
then
come by in California and San Diego.
yeah, I
Those
mean,
kinds of
it's
deals.
nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible, but if you
Yeah.
look hard enough and you know what you're doing, you can definitely still do it.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously you're going through this process, stress, broken pipe, flooding, tenants that won't leave, stress, anxiety. Hopefully they're at least paying if they're not leaving. But yeah, I mean, so it wasn't an easy, oh, let me just like, partner with somebody else. 6 months later, a year later, I make 350K, you know, tax free because we lived in it. So I just want to touch on that. Like you took some risks, you put in some work, and I'm sure there was a lot of stress during that period.
Yeah, totally, man. There was a lot of stress, but also like I had already done this how many dozen times with the
True.
developer.
Yeah.
So I knew hey, day one, we're going in here, we're doing this, we're going to connect with the tenants like this, we're going
Yep.
to start this. I'm going to call this guy. I already had all the vendors, the contractors, close relationships with all of
Nice.
them because of my working experience.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, definitely it was stressful. Took on a lot of personal debt, took on bad debt because I didn't have the cash for the renovations.
Yeah. Yeah.
But dude, like it's just one of those things. Like we had a conversation before this about God. Like God just makes things work out the way they're supposed to be. And I don't want to go down
Mhm.
the religious rabbit hole, but the universe or whatever. If you're doing the right thing and your intention is pure and you're trying to make something good for yourself and your family, I
Yeah.
think that 99% of the time it's going to work out the way it's supposed to, as long as you stay optimistic and consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Right on. So how was that one? You sold your condo, made a nice profit on. You did this flip, made a nice profit on, and now, I mean, you're kind of tell us where you're at now and what you're doing because I know it's way bigger than a flip here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, so now this is what late 2021. So in late 2021, after I exited these two deals, I went to an event called Flip Hacking Live because a War Room member, Adam Whitney,
Mm,
gave me a free ticket. So I ended up going out to Orlando. I met this guy named Octavio Moda. He was in a similar boat. He was liquidating his entire single family portfolio.
wow.
So we started making offers on multifamily and mobile home parks. It was a low interest rate, so everyone was overpaying. We couldn't compete. Met another guy, Army veteran, civil affairs, a guy named Danny Fry. He was like, "Hey, dude, you should check out these hotels." The numbers were no brainers, so we started investing in hotels. We started buying hotels. We founded a company called Tempest 22, and in our first year in our so we co-founded Tempest 22 in March of 2022. And in our first 9 or 10 months, we bought $18 million in hotels. And in our first year, we raised 3.5 million. And now we're going on. I think we just hit 4 million raised as a company. So that
All right.
happened, and then Okay, yeah, go
Let,
ahead. We
let,
could we
let's
could
yeah. Let's stop for a sec. Yeah. First of all, what does Tempest 22? What does that mean?
So the reason that we called it Tempest 22 is Tempest is like a storm because our private equity model is disruptive in that we find credible operators and pair them with private equity instead of just focusing on the deal. So we
Okay.
find a credible operator, like for example, our hotel operator is 25 years, hotel guy, he's bulletproof. We pair him with private equity instead of focusing on finding deals, right? And
Got it.
then to the 22 is a tribute to the 22
Mm,
brothers and sisters who are taking their lives every day,
got it.
veterans. So
Got it. Okay. Right on. And so then you bought hotels. I mean, are we talking like, boutique hotels, like 20 rooms kind of thing? You're not talking about a Marriott that's closed down and you're buying several hundred rooms, are you?
yeah, so most of our hotels are going to be around anywhere from 99 to 112. That's what we have right now. So
Okay.
around 100 rooms is where we
Okay.
go, and they're
And
usually either independent or flagged.
geographically, where are you? Everywhere?
By design, we've been in the southeast, but we'll take them anywhere.
Okay. Okay. And I'm trying to remember the numbers that you put out. You purchased $18 million worth of hotels in how long?
In our first 9 months.
First 9 months. And you raised how many million?
So in our first year, we hit three and a half, roughly 3.5 million.
3.5 million. So, like, I mean, I just, I've had a couple conversations with a buddy, and he keeps somebody else keeps telling me he's got a syndicate, and like, raise a fund. And I'm like, where do you even start with taking money from other people? Like, how does that even work? That's a big that's a big commitment, big hurdle to get over and being responsible for other people's money, especially when we're talking about several $1 million.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something that you can't take lightly, but it goes back earlier to my story. So I worked for that developer for free. I leveraged
Yeah.
his experience, his credibility, his school of hard knocks 10 years to go do my own deals.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing. My hotel operator's been doing this for 25 years. He's flipped I don't know how many dozens of hotels successfully, never
Got it.
lost one except for one to a fire.
Mm,
So it's not necessarily me going out and being, I'm raising money, but it's on the back of his credibility, his
got it.
experience. And oh, by the way, I've also had I've had successful exits in real estate by now, and
Got it.
so it's kind of leveraging, ability to raise capital, our ability to raise capital, your experience,
Yeah.
um, and then your ability to find deals. So we're able to create this synergy where people's capital is treated safely, is
Hmm.
invested responsibly, is grown exponentially, and we don't have to go do hotels for 25 years because we already have someone on our team who's done it.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. Okay. So another coattail kind of thing, like find a coattail to ride on and partner with, and eventually you'll have your own coattail for other people to ride on. So
That's exactly it, man.
yeah,
Everything happens from relationships
yeah,
and leverage.
yeah. That's awesome. So what I'm just curious, what's like the average investment size for an individual person that contributes to your fund?
Yeah, so initially when we started off, we were, accredited only, which is someone who has $1 million net worth or $250,000 a year income,
Yeah.
um, is like the rough definition of an accredited investor. But and our minimum was anywhere between 50 to 100,000. But what we did was we purchased a hotel called the Husky, and we made a super low minimum. It was 10,000, non-accredited, friends and
Mm,
family. Because the whole reason we started this business was because we had money to deploy and we wanted good deals,
mm,
right? And then the second reason is because we want our friends and families to grow wealth in real estate with us.
yeah.
So we want to lower that barrier of entry, and we're actually lowering it even more. We're starting a crowd fund,
Mm,
which is going to have a $500 minimum. So anyone's going to be
500 bucks.
able to
Okay.
invest. Yeah,
Wow.
and what's really good about this is that hotels have traditionally been reserved for the wealthy, the
Yeah.
experienced.
Yeah.
Because in order for buy a hotel, let's say me and you, Jason, we have a $10 million net worth, we got cash for the down payment. We still won't be able to go buy that Howard Johnson or that Marriott or that
Totally.
Hilton because we don't have the experience. We won't get the brand or the bank approval.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're able to bring this asset, which is, by the way, a cash cow. You're walking in with equity because hotels had a premature bottom in COVID. So it's an insane buying opportunity even
Mm,
today.
mm.
And we're able to lower that barrier of entry by combining it with someone with experience who's able to go buy them.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Before we get away from it, I want to where like we'll make sure we got a link. But where can somebody has 500 bucks, they're like I just need to get in the game. I don't care. Um and I want to learn hotels cuz I've been hearing a lot about hotels and boutique hotels and these things. Where can somebody go to learn more and invest and contribute?
Yeah, definitely. So you can go to www.tempest22,
Okay.
Tempest22.com,
Okay.
and join our investors club. And when the crowdfund launches, you'll know, and then you can also find me on Instagram at Housebender, like Airbender, but Housebender, and shoot me a DM, and I'm more than happy to
Okay.
tell you all about it.
Right on. And you're still feeling like based on your experience and you being in it and getting some development projects underway. I know you sent me a couple of pictures that you have going underway right now. I mean, building is not cheap. You got construction costs went up, what are they, 40% higher than they were pre-COVID. You got interest rates that are, 7% or more, depending on what you're doing. I mean, how are you like how is it feasible, I guess? Like what's your edge?
Yeah, definitely. So I have two businesses running simultaneously. One is infill development in San Diego, so it's multifamily new construction, and then the second is private equity hotels. So both are feasible, even in a high interest rate environment,
Yeah.
even when there's no deals on the market, even when the cost of construction is going up because of one simple principle: you're buying right.
Mm,
Right. For example, we bought a Baymont in Florence, South Carolina. We bought it for 4.4 million. It appraised for 6 million on day one,
wow.
official appraisal, and now revenue values it at 6.2. I bought a
Okay.
$500,000 duplex in San Diego, California. appraised for 700 on day one, and I got plans and permits, and it's probably worth 850 today before I even built on it.
Plans are perfect. So you are adding units to the duplex?
Yeah, that's correct.
No kidding.
So
that's awesome.
That's really why it's feasible, Jason, is because we're buying correct and we're being conservative and slow, right? There's no rush. The buying opportunities are going to come eventually, but we're going to continue to do deals, and we're going to make sure we're walking in with equity, we're walking in with cash flow, and we're protected by both of those things.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many these platforms, bigger pockets. There's so much hype that people want, they want to get in on the hype. So they jump in and maybe, they lose their shirt because they didn't buy right, because they don't understand the risk. They don't understand, having that room between appraised value, market value, and what they're actually buying it for. So like if it loses equity, if the market drops, at least you have a cushion to make up for it, and you're not going to actually lose your own money. You just got at a discount. So
yeah, absolutely, man. You definitely have to know what you're doing, to take the time to get educated, to learn what a good deal is, and only buy good deals. Never buy for the sake of buying. Like we could continue to buy right now. Like we are continuing to buy, and I could have bought 10 deals instead of the 4 or 5 that I did. But the reason I did the 4 or 5 is because all 4 and 5 of those are home runs.
Yeah.
And when things hit the fan, as they are hitting the fan, and through this economic turbulence, let's just say everything is fine, and I could have bought 10 deals and made 3 times as much money. It doesn't matter, because I'm sleeping good every single night, because I am protected by massive equity and cash flow.
Yeah.
And I'll take that over any amount of money. I have my whole life to make money, but I like enjoying my life. I like traveling. Totally. I like taking half days when I feel like it, totally. and I'll continue to do that, and I'll buy good deals.
Yeah. That's awesome. And all this, I mean, you've been out of the military for how many years now?
I got out of the military in July 2019, so just over 4 years.
4 years. That's incredible. I mean, that's a pretty solid transition to find, a level of success. And it's not like it was always on the up and up. Like you said, you worked for free. You grinded on full-time school, full-time employment, and that's not easy. And so I applaud you for that. We have a hard cutoff right now, so I don't want to keep you, but I think we're gonna have to reconnect and maybe go a little bit deeper at some point if people are interested, because I like what you're doing. I want to hear more.
Dude, thank you so much, brother. It's been a pleasure being on here, and happy to help however I can.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much. I'll post all your links below, and if anybody wants to reach out via Instagram, they know where to find you.
Right on. Take care, Jason.
Thanks, Adit.